Chapter 7. John finished his chores, and since he had time before dark, he decided to ride over to the shanty town. He is worried about how Jasmine is doing since her scary ordeal with the KKK. Evening is fast approaching as he nears the settlement, but Jasmine is still outside her shack playing when she spots John riding in. Mammy, John is here. Come see. Mammy steps out on the porch and waves to John. Come in here so we can thank you properly. Supper is almost ready and you gotta come eat with us. I guess it'll be okay, missus. I just wanted to see if Jasmine is doing alright. She had a bad scare the other night. The little family makes room at the rough-cut table and give her thanks to the Lord for their meager supper. John is overcome with emotion to see how poor they really are. They had no more than started to pass the food when a dreadful noise startles them. Jumping up to see what was happening, John makes it out the door in time to see the ghost racing in and shooting into the sky. Yelling and cursing, they toss burning torches into the shacks, starting numerous fires. Jasmine, fearing the ghost have returned for her, hides under the table as the rest of the family runs out the back door. As the ghosts make a fast getaway, they stop to thrust a burning cross into the yard of the shack where John is standing. The wizard spots John in the light of the fire and pauses for a brief minute, thinking what the heck is he doing here with those niggers? He shouldn't be here. The rest of the gang hangs back with him, stunned to see John there. He ran back into the fire. What's the matter with them? Shouts one of the ghosts. At the time this is going on, Greg returns home to find a note John had left him. I'm going to the shanty town to see how Jasmine is doing. Be back soon, John. That boy has a heart of gold, he thinks. I better go over there and make sure he gets back home safe. As he breaks over the hill, he sees the fires burning in the cluster of shacks, spurring his horse into a run. He charges down the hill right into the gang of the KKK. He draws his revolver and orders them to stay put. Completely caught off guard, they do as he says, and laid their guns on the ground. One of the gang members says, John ran back into the fire. We need to get him out. Greg takes the lead and rushes toward the shack, just as he was about to enter the front porch, which was fully engulfed in fire. It gives away and comes crashing down. By this time, the ghosts had discarded their sheets and masks and were circling the shack. One of them hollers, He's out back with the little pickaninny. He's all right. Greg finally catches his breath now that John was safe. Fires a shot in the air, restoring control of the gang members. With the sheets gone out, there was no problem identifying them. The disgraced old sheriff was the first he recognized. He was not surprised to see him. Next were Tom's cowhands, and finally, at the rear, stands his old friend, Tom. I don't believe it. You're one of these gang members? You told me over and over again how you would not be a part of this. What has happened to you? Haven't you had enough fighting? You know how hard it is for me to lose the war. I just wanted to make these niggers move on. I never planned on getting anyone hurt, especially John. You had to believe me. John moves closer to Greg, and with tears in his eyes, he says, I believe him. Will they have to go to jail? That's up to the judge. I done my job, and from here on up, it's up to him. The gang is bound and tied, and traveling in single file, they make their way to town. After settling them into the jail cells, John and Greg decide to stay in town in case the word gets out that the KKK is there. The last thing they wanted is a lynching. Morning comes out with the reality of last night's events, striking sadness in Greg's heart. He feels responsible for not spotting the anger that his friend was carrying around. He should have been a better friend instead of judging him. Now the old sheriff was another matter. That night, that man was rotten to the core. His actions almost destroyed their little town. And because then, the blacks have endured months of terror. Finally, the judge makes his rounds, setting up the court in the saloon. The trial didn't last long, since they had been captured red-handed. The ex-sheriff Boswell was sentenced to life in prison since he was the one to organize the gang. But the rest of the gang members would spend a year in jail to think over what they had done. Greg was sad for his friend, but felt it was a just sentence. Their little town breathed a sign of relief to have this terrible time over with. It's finally known as a law-abiding town, and new settlers were quickly moving in. Time passed quickly for Greg and John, and soon the year was up for the gang members. They were determined to never get caught up in something as evil as the KKK again. They returned home to Tom's farm and settled down to be law-abiding citizens. The past year was hard for Lily and the boys, but they kept the farm going.